Greetings, friends, and welcome to the What's Right show, brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam and Ash 702-820-1234 because you deserve what's right. Happy Monday. Oh boy, what a weekend this was. Back when Joe Biden went on vacation, he would sleep like a corpse on the beach there in Delaware, feet from his little vacation home. Trump, when he's on vacation, is conquering the world legitimately, scoring victory after victory, as he is bringing our allies and adversaries alike to heel. Now, obviously, you know the news about the enormous trade deal. No matter what spin the mainstream media puts on this, it is devastating for Europe. It is a bad deal for Europe. It is a good deal, a great deal even, for the United States. In sum and total, the gist of the deal is this. For goods that are leaving the U.S., going to Europe, for stuff that we are sending over there, 0% tariffs. And for everything that comes from Europe here, for example, a BMW, a Volkswagen, anything that is manufactured in Europe, not built in the US of A, but coming from the European Union, gets tariffed at 15%. So it is a 15 trade deal. Usually when we talk about tariffs, they're reciprocal. These are non-reciprocal tariffs. Now we'll get more into that in a minute because there are other components to it. And again, there's people, by the way, the Europeans, all of the people, all of the pro-Europe, anti-Trump leftists that have put the European Union into the dire predicament that it finds itself in today are screaming about the deal and cannot understand why Ursula von der Leyen, the EU president, the lady there that you saw on film, looking like a demure schoolgirl getting basically getting called into the principal's office. The visual of it was astounding. Why she would make a deal this poor. And those of you who listen to this program already know the answer. Why would the European Union, that is mediocrity defined in every space, overregulated, bloated, bureaucratic nightmare, open border fiasco, obsessed with wokeism, why would they be exceptional in this one particular area? What is it that do they expect that the European Union, failing in every regard everywhere they turn, would suddenly get its wits about them, come to the table and negotiate with Trump and grind Trump down and emerge victorious? This is the disconnect in the liberal mind. It exists here in the Democratic Party too, and you can look at the 2024 election and see exactly this at play. Mediocre candidate, mediocre, terrible platform, an economy in the dumps. Every indicator would have it that the Democrats would fail. And then they were shocked that they lost. It's the same thing today as Europe awoke from this nightmare yesterday, and all of these pro-Europe, lefty, the Brits would call them wankers. They just out there just go, I can't believe this. I cannot believe how could Ursula von der Leyen give away the store? And the answer is that Europe is screwed and has been by its own doing. And this is just the latest installment of the great European nightmare. Now, Trump, for his part, may ultimately be responsible as the first domino to begin the fall, or the chain reaction that will result in the fall of the European Union, because you have pro-Europe people actually right now saying aloud, my goodness, wouldn't it be better if our individual countries would make their own deals? My goodness, we here, and I'm seeing this from my Czech friends in Prague, they're going, whoa, but we should just make our own deal. And I'm sitting over here as a reasonable, a nationalist, a person who believes in borders, who believes in separate, national identities, who thinks that the European Union is really kind of a giant globalist mess. And I'm going, yeah, yes, of course you should. Of course the Czech Republic should make its deal with the US. Of course Germany should make her deal. The Netherlands, France, etc., etc. Certain countries will have greater sway, others less so. The idea that Europe could become more powerful as this organized unit is now showing signs of complete failure. And exactly the concern is it's become all about the bureaucracy, all about pushing leftism, all about killing freedom of speech and oppression, all about shoving mass migration up, down people's throats. And then when it came to the one function that the citizens of Europe expected, okay, we got it. We got a bunch of Syrians in our village, fine. We can't say anything on the internet or we go to jail, fine. Our economy's in the toilet, okay, fine, it's in the toilet, fine. Just going down the list, right? Oh, we can't turn the heat on in the wintertime because we went all in with Putin's Russia, and then we switched. It's a mess, and global warming and environmentalism. So we can't heat our apartments, fine. But when it comes to dealing with Trump, Ursula von der Leyen, she is going to do us proud, and she didn't. There will be consequences of this that are far greater than what, however long this trade deal lasts or doesn't last. And Trump is, again, becoming the greatest foreign policy president in my lifetime. No one, not even Reagan, comes close to this. Trade is very powerful. We have this giant stick. No one else has used it. Look at this war with Cambodia and Thailand, between the two countries. It's a hot war. It was full swing and becoming, really significant, starting to escalate. And what occurred? Trump came in and said, you know what? Thailand, no deal on trade if you don't stop fighting. Cambodia, no deal on trade if you don't stop fighting. Okay, that's it. You two, go to your rooms. And if you don't come back and play nice, there's no dessert from America. And like that, a war ended. It's over. I mean, we'll see if the peace holds, but it's over as of right this second. It is unbelievable what Trump is able to do with words. And to every one of his critics, of which there are many, I have some news. You're not smarter than him. Frankly, none of us are. He is coming in and he is getting stuff done that everybody else just talked about. All of the critics' words are nothing but empty, trite nonsense. I wrote this in a tweet on X, where you can find me at What's Right Sam, by the way, shameless plug for my social media accounts. Same handle on Instagram as well. I wrote something about our Senator Masto. Yeah, it was, what did I say? I said, they just, all they do about Trump is they whine. Trump wins. Plain and simple. That's how you sum up the state of the opposition and what Trump is able to do. Unbelievable. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT, back in a moment after these messages.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam and Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Salmon Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here on News Talk 840 KXNT. The What's Right show is on. By the way, my email, I love to hear from you folks, and I am going through my backlog of emails and responding as fast as I can. So some of you got emails from me over the weekend, and I'll get through this, I hope, in the next couple of weeks. But my email, sam@whatsrightshow.com, I go through each and every one of them personally, and I read them all right away. So if there's something that you ask and I don't respond to you by email, I will typically get to it on air. You got to listen to the show to get the answer. sam@whatsrightshow.com, email, and of course on X, on Twitter, as it was once called, @whatsrightsam. News reverberating from around the world on Trump's masterful art of the deal negotiation with the Europeans yesterday at his Turnberry Golf Club in Aberdeen, Scotland. The president of the EU, a repulsive figure, if you ask me, Ursula von der Leyen, a useless, globalist, leftist bureaucrat who has driven Europe, along with her colleagues, into the toilet. That's French for toilet. Actually, it's not. Just making that up. But it sounds good when I say it that way. The toilet. She's driven Europe into the toilet. It is a vision of what the U.S. would be, or Kamala Harris, for example, to have won the 2024 election. And frankly, the Biden people did a number on us such that we were headed in that same globalist European direction ourselves, saved from it by the soaring eagle that is Donald J. Trump. So Trump goes down to over to his resort, his golf resort in Scotland. By the way, since Brexit, of course, Great Britain is not part of the European Union. So technically, Ursula von der Leyen was not in EU territory being welcomed by Trump as the host at his property. That came today when Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, came and visited Trump. We'll get to that in a minute. This deal, I mentioned the 15% baseline tariff on most EU exports, all right? The threat was that the tariff rate would rise to 30% on August 1st from a 10% baseline. Steel tariffs, by the way, remain at 50%. Pharmaceutical tariffs are excluded from the reciprocal tariffs. But here's what else. As the EU agrees to zero tariffs on U.S. goods, meaning anything we make here is taxed at zero, no tariff, when it leaves the U.S. and goes to the EU market. The EU also commits to $600 billion in U.S. investments and agrees to purchase $750 billion in U.S. energy and military equipment. This is, in a word, huge. It is described as the largest U.S. trade deal to date. And it obviously is going to be doing good things for our markets. The dollar is going up a little bit, stabilize relations, trade relations with the EU, and at the same time sends a signal around the world. A lot of people are commenting about Canada. You know, how many people do you talk to who are like, Canada, yeah, they're sticking it to Trump. Canada just got left out in the cold. Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, the Trudeau light leader there, Mark Carney has been saying there's no deal, we're going hard up against Trump, and I think they're going to end up basically, I don't know, Canada's going to literally come apart if they can't trade with the U.S. If the U.S. doesn't buy Canadian products, it's over. Guy Verhofstadt, the president of European Movement International. This is a group that wants more European integration, big on the EU, said that the EU-US deal is scandalous, a disaster, with not one concession from the American side, badly negotiated. Now, you know, I'll tell you, they asked van der Leyen about this. Ursula von der Leyen is asked, you know, what were the concessions? Listen to the reporter talk to the president of the EU about this, and listen to her pathetic answer.
What are the U.S. concessions? What is the U.S. giving up in the deal, if anything?
So the starting point was an imbalance, a surplus on our side and a deficit on the U.S. side. And we wanted to rebalance the trade relation. And we wanted to do it in a way that trade goes on between the two of us across the Atlantic, because the two biggest economies should have a good trade flow between us. And I think we hit exactly the point we wanted to find. Rebalance, but enable trade on both sides, which means good jobs on both sides of the Atlantic, means prosperity on both sides of the Atlantic, and that was important for us.
Well, she acknowledges Trump's central premise. This is, by the way, this is a foundational issue for Trump during his 2015-16 campaign, and throughout his first term in office, and of course now in his second term following the 2024 election, where Trump has laid out constantly that there's a trade imbalance, and van der Leyen, now the EU, admitting, yes, that's the starting point. Now, I'm as pro-Trump and pro-U.S. as it gets. You can appreciate, though, how badly it would stink right now to be in Europe and watch your fearless leader completely poop her drawers and mess up this negotiation and accept in the negotiation the starting place of her opponent. Which, yeah, this is not how you negotiate. This is as if someone hired me to represent them in a motor vehicle accident, and the insurance company comes into the negotiation and says, yeah, I don't think they're hurt at all. I think your client's making it up. Meanwhile, my client has, life-altering injuries, and it's all documented. And I say, oh, well, good point. So, Attorney Sam, why did you settle your client's case for $5? Well, the insurance company said they weren't injured, I'm just giving you a real-life example. By the way, I am an attorney, and I have done negotiations, but not like that. And, I'd be out on my butt. I wouldn't have a house if this is how I negotiated. My kids would be starving. I would have to, cosplay as a Somalian immigrant to get extra EBT money. Robbie, you think that would be challenging for me, don't you? Hey, listen, now, if I was up against the wall, I could be resourceful, all right? I'm just letting you know. This is so bad. And it's so good for Europe. And the fact that it wasn't front page news on the New York Times today, the Washington Post, the idea that this is not epic is, I think it just belies the extent to which the mainstream media is still steeped in Trump derangement syndrome. So there's that. By the way, Trump I loved, he will not give it up about the windmills and the whales that are dying. By the way, you land in Europe. I was a trip before last. I flew through Amsterdam because Las Vegas to Amsterdam, great connection. So I fly to Amsterdam, then cross over to Prague when I'm on my way there. And you're landing in Amsterdam. It's a ocean. It's a flat country, right? Beautifully green. And then all of a sudden, everywhere, these stupid windmills. So Trump, brought that up. And then I loved that he threw in the immigration thing. He will, and we have the clip of that. We do. Here's what Trump and van der Leyen said. The European Union has left all these people in, and I'll play this here after the break because I got a hard break here at bottom of the hour. But this was good. He didn't give her an inch. He doesn't care about awkward. Trump is the honey badger in these negotiations, and we are lucky to have him. Even the people here in the U.S. who hate Trump, you are lucky to have him as your president. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT, back in a moment. Rarely wrong, always right. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Trump, of course, had a busy weekend. Those of you just tuning in. First, he beat up Europe, all of Europe, not just one country in Europe, the whole EU. He pimp slapped Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Union, and got a trade deal that is record-setting, breaking, and in our favor. Huge deal, 15% tariffs coming over to the U.S., so we get revenue. We literally get revenue. And then our goods go to Europe at 0%. You don't have to be a mathematical wizard to realize that is excellent for the United States of America. Now, just before the bottom of the hour, I ran out of time. I've got to play this clip about immigration because, of course, one of the things that Europe has doubled down on is mass immigration. And who wants to come en masse to Europe? The conquering armies of Islam from some pretty shady countries, a la Syria. And it's been going great. Thank you for asking. Lots of rapes. We got that going. Crime is ascendant. What else has been going on? Well, these people, not all of them are productive. I mean, I guess it's not very politically correct to say, but they don't like to work. They have a ton of kids. They come in with their whole families. Everybody's on public support. And then when you, as a native, I don't know, Swedish person or a German citizen or French person complain about it, you're a bigot, you're a racist, and you get thrown in jail for complaining about it. There are times where, and it doesn't happen, it's not infrequent, where in the EU and in Great Britain, critics of mass immigration end up doing more jail time than immigrants who are convicted of serious offenses like assault and rape. It's really shocking when you think about it. Incredibly offensive. The point is that the European government, when I talk about the EU, right, this is the organization of the member states that represents the continent of Europe, the countries that are members of the EU, that they clearly don't care about their individual citizens on this particular issue. I would argue others as well. And Trump brings it up. He says basically Europe's got the same problem with immigration as we did here. And van der Leyen, one of the architects of this mass immigration policy, just sitting there having to take it.
I will say this, they did ask me when I got off the plane, immigration, Europe has a tremendous problem, and we do too, but we've sealed our borders. We have nobody coming in, and we have hundreds of thousands of people being taken out, and the bad ones first, and I think we're doing a very good job of that. But it literally registered 0 people last month. You probably saw that, nobody. And Europe has a very similar problem. I think they're going to end up in the same place. You might as well go there quicker.
You're going to close your doors. Europe, you're going to tighten your border. You're going to do what we're doing in the U.S. And, you might as well get going on it now. This is... I understand. Some of you are wondering, why are we talking about Europe? We care about the U.S., Sam. Damn it. The U.S. matters. Okay, folks, I care about the U.S., number one. But number two, I think we all have a slightly vested interest in the survival of Western civilization as we know it. The other thing that is important, and maybe this comes from or it's informed by my experience with communism, where, to defeat communism, and we're back at it now again with politicians in our country claiming that communism and socialism is good. An unprecedented number of young people, 60+%, viewing socialism favorably. It's back as an existential threat, right? But, we fought communism everywhere it was around the world, understanding that it would proliferate. Handing over Europe to, forget Russia. If you're talking about Russia, you are yesterday's news. If you're not worried about Europe falling to Islam, you're not paying attention. You're not aware. That's the real threat. And getting Europe to follow our lead and conquering this globalist, kind of world liberal left view of the Ursula von der Leyens and the Bill Gates and the Obamas of the world. We need to conquer that and end that thinking everywhere in the West. And America can lead. And America first means we lead the world. And Trump is demonstrating this, right? And he's doing it without spending bazillions of dollars. In fact, he's doing it by getting them to pay us. Can you think of anything that is more America first than us telling Europe how to behave and then saying, now, daddy's here, pay up? Folks, Trump's second term is going better than I could ever have imagined. Robbie, do you not agree? Is this, it's better, it's exceeding expectations. You get the report card, kids come home at the end of the summer. Yeah, we're still pouring over ours, good, bad, and the ugly. And looking at the report, and it's the meat sex exceeds expectation. That's what you want. Exceeds expectation. The job review. That's where you get the big raise. Exceeds expectations. Well, hell's bells, that's where Trump is. A+, full raise, give this man whatever he wants. And what does the mainstream media do? All this is going on. And the mainstream media, there's an article somewhere I saw, I think it was the Washington Post, with a photograph of the Qatari jet on the runway somewhere that's undergoing a redo for the next Air Force One. I'm not going to relitigate it. If giving you my thoughts on that, that's not my point. My point is like Trump's out there just remaking the world for the better, putting America back in its rightful place, sidelining China. Nobody's talking about China today. And they're like, there's a plane. These are the last gasps that you're hearing from the mainstream media of I think the final little droplets of whatever credibility they have, and they're just throwing it out there mixed with their usual muck. It's absolutely beautiful to see. Now, after beating Europe yesterday, Trump continued the winning streak with a sit-down with Keir Starmer. Now, I mentioned these meetings are all taking place at his golf resort in Scotland. This is a Trump resort. It's called Turnberry. It's just outside of Aberdeen. And it's in the UK, right? It's in Great Britain, which means that the British Prime Minister is visiting. He travels. Again, it's imagery matters, folks, and in a negotiation, turf matters. Where you're having a meeting matters. When you go into, if you're negotiating with somebody, you go to their office, it's going to be a different dynamic than when they visit you at yours, right? So Trump knows this, and it's perfect. And he stages this meeting where Keir Starmer comes walking up the steps. So Trump is up above the prime minister of the UK, and he's there. Was that his wife with him, by the way, Robbie? This is some dumpy looking woman, if I may say so. This is not good. But here, if those of you watching the Sam Cam, You guys can see this. Hold on. Here's the first. Here, I got to get this whole interaction in because they're on the steps. Let's see. What's this? We got to get. Yeah, the first one. Well, we'll talk about the immigration. Which one of these is on the steps, Robbie? Do we have which one of these clips is on the steps? Oh, the 8, right? Before the meeting. So here we go.
Importance of free speech today.
Well, free speech is very important. I don't know if you're referring to any place in particular. Perhaps they are, but
we've had free speech for a very, very long time here, so we're very proud about that.
Did you see the panicked look on Starmer's face when he starts to talk? When he starts to talk about free speech, stunning, and then he moves right to illegal immigration. Listen to this.
you know, Europe is a much different place than it was just 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and they've got to get their act together. If they don't, you're not going to have Europe anymore as you know it, and you can't do that. This is a magnificent part of the world, and you cannot ruin it. You cannot let people come in here illegally. And what happens is there'll be murderers, there'll be drug dealers, there'll be all sorts of things that other countries don't want. And they send them to you, and they send them to us, and you've got to stop them.
Same thing that he told van der Leyen. Same exact thing. Now, when we get to the meat of the meeting, I can show you that Trump was very stern and robust in his presentation, his sit down with the UK Prime Minister. Because of course, there's another deal that has to be made. Be right back, folks. Don't go anywhere. The What's Right show is brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam & Ash 702-820-1234 because you deserve what's right. Oh, just chitty-chatting here with producer Robbie about Keir Starmer's wife. So, yeah, it is his wife on the steps of Turnberry Golf Club, Trump's resort just outside of Aberdeen, Scotland. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Welcome to the What's Right show. Well, here was my question. I asked producer Robbie if she was having a bad day. So he, over there in the control room, ran a quick Google image search and has informed me that actually the images found on the internet are worse. She looked better on the steps. Okay, good. We've settled that question. An important point of journalism covered again here on the What's Right show. I'll tell you one of the big, hey, these people are odious. They're fair game. These people are absolutely horrid. Imagine Great Britain. This is a country, once upon a time, one of the greatest in the world. And they come along with this Labor government, their version of the Democrats. And yes, they've opened the borders. They've let a bunch of criminal illegals loose. There are boats arriving every day. Kind of like the last 4 years here in the U.S., where we had boats just showing up places and police were given stand-down orders. You can't interfere. Let the migrants in. Let them roam free. Pretty soon, of course, criminal aliens everywhere doing all sorts of terrible things, including murder, rape, armed robberies, burglaries. I mean, every index went up. And the FBI basically here in the U.S. had to work, overtime to fudge the numbers and work with the math so the crime statistics wouldn't show the real story of what was happening. That is what's going on in Great Britain. It is a glimpse of how it would be for us if we had doubled down on Joe Biden with Kamala Harris. This is why it's instructive. It's important for us to see what would have been. Spoiler alert, not good. None of it. So one of the things that the government can do there, because they don't have a First Amendment like we do, is that they come up with all sorts of draconian restrictions on speech. The Online Safety Act, which I guess has nothing to actually do with safety, but everything having to do with controlling what people say so they don't criticize the government, is just such a thing. And yes, this morning, by the way, at Turnberry, Scotland, with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, Trump gets into this online act and saying how terrible it is. And Starmer, for his part, tries to defend it.
There are new powers here to censor your site, states mandated powers.
To censor my site?
To censor your site and
mean
Twitter
Truth?
and Facebook.
Truth?
I mean Truth. Is that okay?
Well, I don't think he's going to censor my site because I say only good things. Will you please uncensor my site?
Yeah, we're not censoring anyone. We've got some measures which are there to protect children, in particular from sites like suicide sites. We've had too many cases in the United Kingdom of young children taking their own lives, and when you look through their social media, they've been accessing sites which talk about suicide and encouraging, if you like, children down that road, and that is what we want to stop. There's nothing about censoring free speech.
But that treats all adults like children.
This country is the proud.
But that can treat all adults like children.
Free speech in this country has been for a very long time. We're very, very proud of it. We will protect it forever. But at the same time, I personally feel very strongly that we should protect our young teenagers, and that's what it usually is, from things like suicide sites. I don't see that as a free speech issue. I see that as a child protection issue.
All right, so our teenagers, by the way, Great Britain now moving to give the right to vote to 16-year-olds and up. Our teenagers are too stupid to sort through their internet content, but they can vote. Don't liberals just fascinate you? They don't even track their own arguments from one week to the next. So it's just dangling. Every single thought a liberal has, every argument exists like in this strange little vacuum. Or just over here. Like, here's my thought on can't say anything. Oh, got to protect the youths. Oh, young people can vote. Right? That blows the mind. Anyway, this is the reason a guy named Tommy Robinson is in jail is because he said mean things about Muslims. He went to jail. He was in solitary confinement. British patriots are being arrested for wearing British clothing, waving the Union Jack, the flag of the UK at protests. Oh, you're causing offense. Remember when 60 Minutes in Germany did the piece, 60 Minutes in the US, but about Germany, did a piece about how the Germans, the prosecutors there, were gleefully recounting how they went around and 6 a.m. raids on elderly pensioners who had posted some mean thing about immigrants. It wasn't even, overtly racist. It was just saying, hey, these immigrants are sure raping a lot of people. Oh, the police showed up. They took away his tablet, his cell phone, $3,600 in fines. And again, this is, if you're asking, Sam, why are you talking about Europe? Never forget how those CBS journalists were reporting on this story and drooling. They were salivating over these police powers that these European dictators had because they wish they could do this. And they tried to do it here under Biden. Remember the Ministry of Truth? Nina Jankowicz, a person who no doubt would be beautiful in the eyes of Keir Starmer. No, she was not a good-looking broad either. No, but it's what's on the inside that matters. An absolute cretin. Nothing but air and hate for Trump in between her ear holes. But it's dangerous because what she was proposing to do through the so-called Ministry of Truth is decide for all of us what on the internet is true and what isn't. It's what the Democrats long to do. And if we let the Democratic Socialists of America take over, trust me, they will find a way around it. They'll stack the Supreme Court, and next thing you know, we will redefine what the First Amendment is to mean that words that are hurtful to someone are violative of the First Amendment. That has been their plan from go. And we got to pay attention to this, folks. You think, oh, we've got the First Amendment. Nothing can happen. Yeah, It can be monkeyed with, trust me. Quick break here. Sam Mirejovsky behind the What's Right microphone. Back in a moment. Greetings and welcome to the What's Right show, your place for common sense conservatism, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m., here on News Talk 840 KXNT. Friends, good to be with you as always. Sam at what'srightshow.com. That's the email. That's where you get a hold of me, yours truly. And of course, on X, formerly known as Twitter, at What's Right Sam. Instagram as well, although I typically post some pretty pictures. In fact, though, Robbie, I posted something overtly political on Insta for my standard. And that was this story about a Michelin-starred chef who happens to be Israeli, and I believe of the Jewish persuasion. And he is a chef in Berlin, Germany. Did you see the story? Because I put it up on my Insta. This chef, guys, is packing it up in Berlin. Packing it up. He's moving on out, and guess where he is moving to? I was very proud. He is moving to Prague, the Czech Republic, where Jews are allowed to live without getting molested. I mean that in the broad sense. By angry pro-Palestinian freaks and crazy out-of-control Islamist conquerors. These are just I don't make stuff up on this program. Those are the facts of life in Europe. If you are Jewish and you are living in a place like, I don't know, let's say bucolic areas, parts of the Spain. I'll bring up Spain. I think I mentioned this on air. I was on a trip, went to Spain, and was gone for 3 weeks, if you'll recall, back in, what was that, June of last year, of 2024. And one of the things that really struck me is pretty much everywhere I went, but particularly in San Sebastian, which is a place a lot of Americans love to go to and love to visit, I saw there was a Palestinian flag hanging out of every fifth window. It's not a good place to be if you're Jewish. People in Paris are hiding their yarmulkes. They are sort of, making themselves blend in a little bit better. This is embarrassing. This is shameful. These countries, the EU, has prioritized the well-being of parasitic invaders over their own population that went through, incidentally, not that long ago, in a little event during World War II called the Holocaust, through some major traumas and loss. They went through a genocide, an actual genocide. And these countries, some of whom I dare say might be a little complicit in it, i.e., Germany, gosh, should we be talking about Berlin? And here we are in 2025, and Jews aren't safe in Europe once again. And why? Because the left took over. The left has been in charge for decades, and this is the natural consequence of it. Leftism is a cancer on Western civilization. It is the most destructive force that will be our ultimate undoing if it's not stopped. Now, our full stop, or our, opposition to it came in the form of Trump and the Make America Great Again agenda. And I have high hopes for America. It's good for us, but we don't want us versus the entire world. Again, we'd like some of Western civilization to be preserved. And so to that end, this is why Trump is engaging with the Europeans. He's doing this, and he's putting up the good fight. Incidentally, and I say this as a important something that a lot of people are not talking about. Putin has to be watching Trump, sitting down the EU sitting down the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, because those are two big political forces on the European continent that aren't Russia, and sternly talking to them, basically having his way with them, getting all of this stuff. And Putin's got to sort of think at this point, right, that, okay, Trump's taking care of Europe. He's getting the trade deal set up. And pretty soon, Trump's going to have some free time on his hands. What's he going to do with that free time? And he's already signaled that he wants an end to the Ukraine war. Now, everybody, coming into the Trump presidency, the second Trump presidency, Trump 2.0, has been, everybody, a lot of people who are especially critical of Trump have said that Trump would roll over and give Putin whatever he wants. That is far from, or turned out to be far from the truth. Trump is absolutely sticking up now and really pissed off with Putin. And he said as much this morning on the steps of his Turnberry Club with PM Keir Starmer right there, about what he's disappointed in Putin. Listen to how he says this.
Mr. President, what about Russia and Ukraine? You're talking about ceasefires. What's the latest?
I would have said 5 times we would have had a deal. I've spoken to President Putin a lot. I got along with him very well. But 5 times, and every time 4 times maybe, but we've had discussions. You and I have had discussions. Yeah. We thought we had that settled numerous times. And then President Putin goes out and starts launching rockets into some city like Kiev and kills a lot of people in a nursing home or whatever. You have bodies lying all over the street. And I say, that's not the way to do it. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm very disappointed. I'm disappointed in President Putin. Very disappointed in him. So we're going to have to look, and I'm going to reduce that 50 days that I gave him to a lesser number because I think I already know the answer what's going to happen.
By the way, the New York Post today reporting that Trump is intent on moving the deadline up for Putin to stop his invasion from its original 50 days to about 10 or 12 days. That's what he said. I'm going to make the new deadline about 10 to 12 days from today. So, I think that this, imagine you're the Russians. You've enjoyed this little conflict that Trump has had with Europe. Europe potentially signaling, it was a week ago that Europe was saying, we're done with Trump. Screw Trump. We're on our own. And then they just folded like a cheap suit. And what's important in the deal? Everybody's focused on the tariffs. 15% for them, 0% for us. Tee-hee, right? But what about all that energy that we're buying? Remember that these same idiots in Europe who said, we're going to buy cheap natural gas from Putin, and we're going to decommission all of our power plants, our nuclear power plants. Remember this? Those very same people then ended up with Putin going, okay, well, now I can invade Ukraine because they are completely energy independent on me, on Russia. I've got them by the balls. Then somebody blew up the pipeline, right? And so kind of created a problem for Putin and for Europe. Putin didn't have Europe by the balls, but Europe also was sitting there with frozen balls because nobody was heating their places. People were actually cold in the wintertime in Europe. This is a developed country, a continent. These are countries that have money, are considered first world. They didn't have enough power to heat their homes. I don't know if this, of course, if you combine environmentalism with socialism, with idiotic foreign policy, and you stir that into a pot, this is what you get. And now Trump, as part of this deal, has promised to send energy and sign a deal where Europe is obligated to buy European energy, and American energy, U.S. Liquefied natural gas that is shipped over in boats. We have it. We produce it. It's not cheap per se, but it certainly beats not having any of it because Europe doesn't have a lot of natural gas that it can produce independently. I mean, what they could do, listen, I mean, I'm not a crazy person. What they could do is build giant nuclear power plants and heat using basically super cheap electricity. I mean, Europe could do that, but then they'd have to kick all the greenies out of the government. Keep saying how people who go, oh, we need a third party in the US, we need a third party. Europe has third parties. They got fifth parties, sixth parties, eighth parties. And it's so fragmented in these governments that then they have to go and make a coalition government with the Green Party almost in every one of these countries. And then the Green Party go, our one thing is you shut down nuclear power. You cannot have us in the government if you don't shut down nuclear power. People are morons. And that's why Ursula von der Leyen had to go and basically beg Trump for any deal she could get, number one. And number two, it's why Putin now is going, wow, I'm losing all my leverage. Not going to be a lot left. And Putin's, going, and Trump now is going to be freed up to come in and get engaged. Maybe he'll make a phone call like he did, some time ago and during his first term, allegedly. This according to Trump's critics, of course, where he told Putin, hey, you move across that line, you move across that line, you even think about Ukraine, you even dream about Ukraine, and I'm going to bomb Moscow. There'll be nothing left. Moscow will look literally like Yermo, California. That is what it will look like. Sorry for those of you out there living in Yermo, California. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Back after this.
The Salmon Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right show, brought to you by Salmon Ash Injury Law. This winning is so great. Harry Enton, he's the data guy on CNN. He goes, look, you've seen the numbers that came out over the weekend for the Democratic Party. So bad. The Democratic Party, the confidence that Americans have in the Democratic Party is at its all-time lowest by some surveys. Now, Enton gets into this here with John Berman this morning on CNN. Listen to this.
Democrats in the American voters' minds cannot hack it. What are we talking about? Party trust tomorrow and foreign policy. Well, the GOP holds an average 6-point lead in the month of July. Look at this. Fox News came out last week, plus 3 points for Republicans on foreign policy over the Democrats. You think that number is not high enough for you? How about the Wall Street Journal? GOP plus 8 points when they match congressional Democrats up against congressional Republicans. The bottom line is this. Despite everything that's going on in the world right now, Republicans are more trusted on Democrats when it comes to foreign policy and the world at large.
How has this changed, or how does this compare to during the campaign?
Yeah, again, this to me was a surprising number since Donald Trump said he'd come in and broker all these peace deals. And while he's brokered some, he hasn't obviously brokered one between Ukraine and Russia and obviously the situation in Gaza. But take a look here. Trust more in foreign policy. You go back to 2024. Trump had a 6-point advantage over Kamala Harris. Again, look at the average right now. It hasn't moved despite everything that's going on in the world. You see Republicans plus 6 points here. And this goes back to a larger issue that we have discussed over and over again here in the mornings. Despite any misgivings that the American public might have about Donald Trump, when you match up Republicans against Democrats, Donald Trump against Democrats, still at this particular point, they are doing significantly better than you might expect. And when it comes to the issue of foreign policy, again, what you see is in the American voters' minds, Democrats simply put can't hack it. More voters trust Republicans on foreign policy, very much like they did back during the 2024 campaign.
Because every time a Democrat's in office, they send billions of dollars to Iran, right? And what are we missing here? You know it's bad policy. You know it's unpopular because everybody always denied it, right? Remember when Trump during the first campaign said, well, there's pallets of cash to the Iranians under Obama. And Obama said, this is absolutely false because Obama's great at lying. Turned out it was 100% true. Trump leaves office. Iran is literally on the ropes. Iran is, maybe a year or two away, the Islamic Republic, from crumbling. In comes the great savior of Iran, a.k.a. Joseph R. Biden. The auto pen gets elected. And Jake Sullivan and all the little, I don't know, George Washington University retards, okay, who think they're wonks. They're foreign policy experts. Once again, the perils of listening to the experts. So the experts come in. And before you know it, we have October 7th. Because Biden, the administration, floods the zone for Iran with billions of dollars, showers them with cash and benefits. And then a week before October 7th, you have people like, Sullivan and of course, the then Secretary of State, right, going, the region is the quietest we've ever seen. It's great. Things are going fantastic. Thank you for asking. What is that, the monkey emoji, right? If those of you watching the Sam Cam, look, right? Just unbelievable. I'm covering both of my eyes with my hands. Yes, my gosh. No, I know. The whole idiots, all of them. Foreign policy disaster. Now, I mentioned that Trump was able to get Cambodia and Thailand to lay down their arms and negotiate a ceasefire simply based on the threats of not trading with either country. Here are some of his other successes just in the past 6 months, and it's astounding. Trump was able to broker a peace between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. This is a U.S.-mediated peace deal aimed at ending decades of bloody conflict. This is crazy. Nobody even talks about this. What about the hostage deals? He's got hostage deals done. We got Americans home. He kept a lid. Trump kept a lid on what could have been all-out war in the Middle East. He stopped a potential nuclear war between India and Pakistan. It's time that Trump gets the credit he deserves on the foreign policy front. The numbers belie it, but the Democratic Party continues to harp on about all these different things and all these ways Trump is failing. And it's comedy, right? It's absolute comedy. And it continues I'll get to this after the break. I mean, we had our Senator Cortez Masto send out a tweet literally the same day that Trump is killing it with this, getting Europe to the table. And she posts a ridiculous receipt of some cold brew coffee that she had acquired supposedly in Reno, Nevada, showing a receipt where there's a 45-cent tariff charge that this coffee shop is putting. Who believes that's actually real, by the way? Listen, I know coffee shops like the back of my hand. I like coffee. By the way, here I have Vesta Coffee, a local coffee shop here in Las Vegas, Nevada. No, they do not sponsor the program, but I like Vesta. And I like the owner. But I suspect, based on their general appearance, they do not think like me politically. I could be wrong. They're great people, though. Make great coffee. That's my point. We can get along. But my guess is a lot of these businesses that are left-leaning and hate Trump, but also like to make a profit, because who doesn't like to be a capitalist while slamming capitalism, right? Are doing what? They put some nonsense. Oh, we can make an extra 45 cents and make a political statement. When? So on it goes. 45 cents. Sorry, that's our passed along cost because you voted for Trump. And so Cortez Masto, senator here from Nevada, and yes, we could do better. She puts this out as a tweet on the very same day that Trump gets a 15% tariff with the EU. I mean, I understand the coffee beans didn't come from the EU. I get that. But my point is Trump registers one of the greatest trade deal wins in our nation's history. And she's harping on about some beans. I'll get to another senator from Arizona. We come back from the break. My gosh, these people are all lobotomized. What's Right show brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right. I am Nevada's favorite recovering Californian behind the What's Right microphone. Greetings, friends. Welcome to the program. Yes. I love the fact that all the Dems had prepared a speech for the Sunday talk shows yesterday about how Trump was messing up the country. Tariffs. Remember, was it last week? Yes. When the Democrats, the social media platform for the Democratic Party, put out a tweet, and it had a graph of inflation, and it was, look at Trump and inflation, and look at how it's going up. Everything is more expensive in America now. And what was the problem? Well, the problem was that inflation shot up between, and I'll just ask you if you happen to know what happened during these dates, shot up between 2021 and 2025. But it was just the beginning of 2025, after which it stabilized on this graph. Reading the graph, one might assume that Joe Biden had something to do with inflation going up precipitously during his 4 years in office, and equally that Trump might be somewhat responsible for things leveling off as soon as he came to power. The Democrats promptly removed said post after being reminded of this. But this kind of erroneous thinking occurs over and over again. And I saw it, this Sunday, because Trump, 9 hours ahead, of course, in Europe, 8 hours ahead here on the East Coast, on the West Coast to the British Isles, which are 1 hour closer to us than continental Europe. And so we'll call it 5 hours ahead, right? 5 hours ahead to New York. Regardless, he's ahead in more ways than just time zones. He's ahead. And all these Dems are doing these talking points about how bad tariffs are. Meanwhile, Trump is actually killing it. So they couldn't really pivot. And there was this great moment where Mark Kelly, the former astronaut, the senator from Arizona, wife, and I'm calling him that on purpose, wife of Gabby Gifford, he went on Jake Tapper, and this was just too good to be true. Oh my gosh. So Jake Tapper asks Mark Kelly, so you talk about how the Democratic Party has a communications problem. Your party, the Democratic Party, posted on Twitter or X the last few days a chart that showed the price of groceries skyrocketing. The White House took that Democratic chart and accurately reposted it to show that most of the price jumps in that graph happened under the Biden administration. Ta-da! Democrats then deleted the post. Yup. By the way, this is coming from Jake Tapper. This isn't me. This is Jake Tapper. So then Tapper asks, so I wonder if you think Democrats have figured out their problems, both in terms of communication and also acknowledging that Biden-era inflation, for example, is one of the reasons your party is out of power. And Kelly says, yeah, I think it's fair, and then immediately pivots to the pre-prepared talking points.
There was inflation during the Biden administration. I track this pretty closely. I know what, ground beef and eggs and milk costs at the Safeway, where Gabby and I shop in Tucson, Arizona. They went up during the Biden administration. They went up some more. you're going to see prices go up and down. But I think what's important for the American people to know is that Donald Trump's tariff policy is very likely to increase costs. Going to take some time because of supply chains, stuff coming from, in some cases from all over the planet. And his trade policy, for my constituents in Arizona, there are a lot of products that come across the southern border, agricultural products that create thousands and thousands of jobs, not only in Arizona, but in the state of Texas. And we are facing right now some significant job loss. So when you think inflation's a problem for a family, somebody losing a job is even a bigger problem. And we're trying to figure out how we navigate that with this administration. I've spoken to the Secretary of Commerce about some of these tariffs, and we haven't gotten the response that we need.
I think this guy spent too much time out in space. Gotta bring him back down to earth. What did he just? That was the pre-prepared talking point. This is my point in all of this. He had it already. Tariffs. Okay. I understand we had inflation under Biden, but boy, it's going to get worse under Trump. The problem is that every single expert that has foretold either massive price increases, even reasonable amounts of inflation, elevated amounts of inflation, stock market collapsing, etc. None of that has materialized. It just hasn't come to fruition. What does that tell you? Number one, Trump knows something they don't. Number two, these experts, number three, the Democrats don't have anything. And if you didn't already think that the Democrats were stupid, by the way, a point that I'd like to remind you all of, you recall in January, late January, Trump gets sworn in, but really February in earnest, the Democrats kept talking about the price of eggs. And at the time, I told you this is the stupidest thing to hang your hat on because, in the terminology favored by the left, when it comes to renewable resources, chickens are like rabbits. My understanding is, and I've never had a farm and I've never owned chickens, although I've consumed a lot of chickens and eggs, is that the chickens can procreate and make more chickens. If you have a single event that is forced by order of the USDA to cull chickens, to kill chickens, to prevent them from getting some chicken disease, then once the cull is done, yes, there obviously aren't chickens laying eggs, which means I know a little bit about economics, supply, demand. Prices are going to go up, scarcity, etc. But eventually, the chicken's going to meet the rooster. The rooster's going to meet the chicken. They're going to go out on a date. Robbie, you look shocked, Dave. Am I explaining something to you you don't know? That's where the egg comes from. Yes. Bingo. Answering an age-old question. But it was always going to resolve itself. It was like the Democrats were stupidly teeing up a win for Trump, right? Look at the price of eggs, and all Trump had to do is wait for chickens and roosters to consummate their relationships. And of course, lo and behold, it happened, right? The chickens repopulated, the hens began laying, and, were you worried I was going to make a clucking joke, Robbie? Is that where that was going? Sometimes, particularly after last week, producer Robbie gets a little nervous over there in the booth. Starts kind of looking over, getting what is Sam going to say live on air? Well, Robbie, I'm here to keep you guessing. All right, that's what I'm going to do. Anyway, it's just bad messaging is my point. It's terrible messaging. Now, okay. Speaking of messaging, have you noticed that advertising is changing? Remember how 4 years ago, Okay, at the beginnings of it, we call it the post George Floyd BLM era movement. But not post, at the beginning stages, post George Floyd's, ascension to heaven, the Immaculate Ascension, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, every advertising agency in the US was forcing these plus-shaped women on us and multicultural nonsense. And, it was pretty overt. Advertising began to be woke. No longer, I think, didn't Victoria's Secret cancel the calendar? Not that I would know anything about this, Robbie, but they canceled the calendar and all this stuff, right? Well, times are a-changing. Trump's effect is more than just economic or political, it's cultural. And something's afoot. Let me get to this here when we come back, and you'll really want the Sam Cam for this. Those of you who will get the show later on Spotify or YouTube or even X, at What's Right Show on X, can see what I'm going to show you, because there are some great new advertisements out there with attractive women, and the predictable antagonists are emerging to criticize it. Do not want to miss this. Certainly worth a good laugh. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Back in a moment. Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. So, advertising back in the era of George Floyd, BLM, wokeness, early stages of the auto pen presidency was a little bit unsettling, right? We had plus-size models being sold to us as the new definition of attractive. Because, of course, when it comes to the Democrats to the left, they like to rewrite all of the rules, throwing out a millennia of societal evolution to produce a new era, a revolutionary idea where everything is reconceived and reimagined. Now, American Eagle, this is a clothing brand. I don't think I've stepped into the store once, maybe. But, and I certainly don't own any American Eagle apparel. Not really my thing, but apparently they've just hired Sydney Sweeney to be the brand ambassador in advertising for them. Now, Sydney Sweeney is an actress. She is objectively beautiful and curvy. If you are a heterosexual man, you probably are going to find her highly attractive. Now, here is, the liberal woman upset about this on social media. I can't tell you. I enjoy this so much, Robbie. Oh my gosh.
Did American Eagle just run an ad for eugenics?
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Sydney Sweeney has very genes.
Totally just talking about denim, right? Just a blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman explaining how her good genes gave her personality and purity. I mean,
okay. By the way, jeans here play on the word for the clothing, right? That's what she's putting on. She's a vision in denim. She's wearing something what we would call a Canadian tuxedo. That's before we got into a trade war with Canada. I don't know what we'd call it now. But anyway, so it's funny. It's fun. She's got good genes, Genes, and also happens to wear some nice jeans provided to her by the advertiser, American Eagle. Get it? Ha ha. It's punny. But because the left doesn't have any humor, this is what is now the state of it. She's calling it eugenics, saying this is basically like Aryan race propaganda from the Third Reich.
I mean, are we really going to pretend that this isn't a little fashy-coded? Look, I'm not saying that Sydney Sweeney personally wrote this ad to revive the Third Reich, but American Eagle absolutely knew what they were doing here. You don't get to drop lines about inherited traits, blue eyes, and great genes while zooming in on somebody that could have walked straight off of a Nazi propaganda poster and expect people not to catch that reference. Good genes used to mean racial purity in fascist circles, and now it's just denim marketing. We are watching fascist aesthetics sneak back into pop culture through fashion ads, trad wife influencers, and yes, now blue jeans. If you think this was an innocent ad, you have not been paying attention.
This is so good. Absolutely fantastic. Like, she's not alone in this. It's like exploding on the internet. Here's another one.
Should we be surprised that a company whose name is literally American Eagle is making fascist propaganda like this? Probably.
Wait, let me describe this woman. You like where I froze that? Now, this woman, here's part of the problem. These are women who are not attractive, complaining about an attractive woman being used in an ad. Now, listen, look, I think very highly of my looks, but I am aware that there are better looking men than me. I'm not going to be a model, okay, in a clothing ad. Probably. But I don't look at, do you ever look at, I'm just asking, Robbie, it's an aside. Do you ever look at an ad that has like really good looking men in it and feel threatened by that? I don't, ever. Like, I go, well, they're good looking, but they're models. They're male models, and I've watched Zoolander, so I know that these guys are all vapid. So I don't even be bothered, but these people are bothered by it. She's got her trans flag behind her. She's got some Pikachu doll on her shelf. She's got some who knows what cartoon thing on her shirt. Glasses. She's wearing how the young people always wear the headsets wherever they go. Anyway, I'm just setting the stage.
Probably not, but it's still really shocking. Like, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman is talking about her good genes. Like, that is Nazi propaganda. I also am thinking about, like, all of the young girls who are doing their back-to-school shopping right now at places like American Eagle who are seeing ads like this. Yikes. Also, American Eagle is mostly a brand that, like, teenagers to like young adults shop at, and so the fact that like this type of advertising is being used that feels so for the male gaze and so over sexualized, like I just don't like it. I don't like it even a little bit.
She doesn't like it even a little bit. Huh. Interesting. So all I am saying is something's happening right now in this moment in time. Trump's effect is larger than just economic, than just political. It's larger than just domestic issues and even foreign policy. It's transcending even into his effect, transcending into our culture. And it's a good thing because everything was getting weird. It was becoming wrong to advertise things. By the way, to advertise things using attractive people. Look at Jaguar. You see, we covered this, of course. They put out an ad where it's a bunch of basically kind of genderless blob people wearing different colors. And that's the ad. They're sitting on a rock. They look this way. They look that way. There's no car in the ad. We've lost our minds. We're coming back. The pendulum is coming back to center. And my honest to goodness pro tip, my Sam pro tip for each and every one of you is this. Pay very careful attention to those that are calling Trump extreme right now. Because to me, the cultural adjustment, the cultural recalibration that is occurring is an acknowledgement by people with billions of dollars who are just focused on making money. They don't have a political, axe to grind. They're looking to make money. They are realizing that it's okay to be normal again. And they are telling us where normal is. Normal is you are selling jeans with an attractive woman inside the jeans. Shocker. They are telling us that selling a car without showing the car and having a bunch of trans-looking aliens is not okay, right? Because, of course, the marketplace has spoken and Jaguar is literally not selling any cars. The marketplace is speaking very loudly that what Trump represents is actually center. And so the hack, if you will, if you can use this kind of logical or new frame of looking at things, just pay attention to who says that Trump is radical. It's going to be people like the Democratic Socialists of America. It's actually the radicals who want to define Trump as a radical. Trump is an embodiment of a recentering of our society. And it's happening at a critical time. It was probably overdue by a couple years. And, and it'll go down in history, by the way. The Democrats made their bed with the radical left. And they can yell fascist. They can yell Nazi. They can yell eugenics or whatever, all this stuff. And no one cares. It only gets some views from their echo chamber and then from the rest of us who are laughing at them. So we're not alone, is my point. They want you to think that you're a radical and a crazy person for supporting Trump. You're not. We actually, at the end of the day, are fairly ordinary. And we ought to go forth every day with that level of confidence. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. I'll see you tomorrow, folks.